My betta fish Kai has been having issues with his health, and lately he just started having issues with swimming. And it looks like it's swim bladder disorder. He just sinks to the bottom of the tank. And I have treated this before, and so I thought I would just make a video showing you guys what I do to treat it. I have not treated him yet. He is in this 10-gallon tank. Now, as to the causes, what I think caused it, I'm kind of making assumptions here, but he's been sick recently. The whole tank, well, the fish in the tank had an outbreak of ick, and I treated that. I got rid of that, and they seem to be doing well. You can see all the tetras swimming around. But Kai just never bounced back very well. Like, he just looked really old. Like, he didn't have any ick, but he aged drastically in the like 2 weeks that I was treating him for it and trying to get rid of it. So I think that just opened him up to other sicknesses. But also, I added community fish, and overeating can cause swim bladder disorder. And I think he's been pigging out a little too much. So that is one of the issues that you probably will come across if you have a community tank with the betta fish in it. The betta fish are always the most aggressive fish in the tank. They are the boss. And so when you feed them, they tend to get most of the food, and they can get a little chunky, and you can come across some health issues such as swim bladder disorder with them. It's not super common. I've kept multiple bettas like in community tanks, and overall, they get a little bit chubby, but nothing serious. But Kai has swim bladder disorder, and I think it's partially from overeating, partially from the stress of having ick and just not having bounced back yet. So I'm going to treat him. Before I start adding stuff to the tank, I'm going to go over what I do. So it's good to keep them in shallow water. Their swim bladder isn't functioning very well, and it's stressful to them to swim up to the surface for air each time they need air. And so I keep them in shallow water. No, I shouldn't. It's more like this. Well, let me show you. I bought this. So this is not quite as shallow as I would like to keep him in, but I'm going to put some moss on the bottom. I have a lot of moss in here that I'm going to pull off. I don't need all of it. So I'm going to put some moss in the bottom of this basket. This is just a breeder box. You can get them for like $10 at PetSmart. And I'm going to hook it. Oh, there we go. I'm going to hook it on the side. Now, the tank's not going to look very pretty, but it's okay. I'm going to hook it onto the side of the tank and put him in there, and just have plants in here for him to lay on and just kind of hide in so he doesn't feel so stressed out. And then you want to have warm water, so make sure you have a heater in the tank. I have a Hygger heater that is set to 80 degrees. I'm not sure why I said Hygger. It can be any brand, but mine is Hygger, and I'm able to set it to whatever temperature I want, which is really handy. And you want tannins in the water. So I just did a 30% water change on this tank. You want clean water, so that's why I did the water change. And I have tannins in here. The water was browner than this earlier today. And then aquarium salt. So when I did the water change, I added more aquarium salt. And there is 2 different leaves in here leaching tannins. So the water will be colored back up in just like a little bit of time. So I probably won't be adding any more leaves to the tank. But yeah, make sure they have warm water, clean water, tannins, and aquarium salt, and then shallow water. So those 5 things can really help cure a betta fish with swim bladder disorder. Now, some betta fish another thing, there is one more thing, and that is fasting them. So he hadn't eaten for 3 days prior to this, and I did feed him this morning. I fed him some frozen bloodworms. He still has a good appetite. He loved them, but I'm not going to feed him again. Today's Monday, and I won't feed him again until Friday. So I'm going to fast him for like 5 days. I don't typically recommend going 5 days without feeding your betta fish, especially in a more sterile environment like I'll be putting him in. There's not going to be a lot of like micro I just blanked. There's not going to be a lot of food in the tank for him. I'll just leave it at that. So So I'm going to do that. Those 6 things you keep in mind if your betta fish has swim bladder disorder, which I feel like a lot of betta fish that you're going to buy from like Petco or PetSmart, they're probably going to have swim bladder disorders. Like that's so common. So if you are buying your fish from there, this video may be helpful. I did not buy Kai from there. I've had him for months now, not quite a year, but months, and he's just been struggling lately. Like if it's not one thing, it's another. So I'm hoping this helps. Here is Kai just laying on his side on this rock. You can see he's kind of struggling to get to the surface of the water for air. And then he just sinks back down rapidly. And that is how I know he is struggling with his swim bladder. And then he just lays on his side in the sand. So I'm going to put him, in a more shallow, in this thing, it's more shallow than the tank. So he doesn't have to struggle as much to go up for air. And I may bring the water down in this tank just a little bit. I may bring the water down, but I don't know. I do have these roots in here that may not get enough water if I bring it down. So we'll see. All right, so I'm going to catch him. This is going to stress him out, sadly, but oh, that wasn't too bad. Betta fish are pretty easy to catch. Now I'm going to put this net down in here. I already took the lid off of the tank. There we go. And I'm just going to add him into here. Sorry, buddy. There we go. And you can use a hospital tank to, put your betta fish in. You could just set up a hospital tank and just put a little bit of water in it and a heater that's not going to overheat that small body of water. But I don't have a hospital tank on hand, and buying a $10 breeder box is much cheaper and easier for me to do right now. So I just did that. Now I'm going to come over here and just pull some of this moss off because there's a lot of moss back here that's just growing kind of wild. I'm going to put this in here so he can just have like a nice little bed to lay on, He's already coming over here like, what is that? Huh. I'm going to kind of spread it out for him. There we go. And I have a plant back here. You know what's funny? I have guppy grass in this tank, just one strand of it. And I did not plant guppy grass. I didn't plant it. So it had to have come in as like a little seed when I set this tank up, like from a different tank or something. And it just goes to show that you cannot hardly kill guppy grass. I just thought that was kind of comical. I don't mind it being in this tank. I didn't add it. And there's also this like little bit of pearlweed right here that I also did not add. That must have came in as like a little seed on the moss that I pulled from a different tank. So I'm just going to put that in there for him too. It's not really a part of my scape, so I might as well just pull it off the scape and stick it in here for him. And let me show you what else I grabbed at the fish store. So I don't normally buy these plants. This is Busa philandra. But it was like $9 for a package, and it's 3 different clumps. And if you have ever bought Busa philandra from a fish store, that's a pretty good deal. Like you typically get 1 clump for like $10, something. And so I just bought this, and now I didn't buy it for him for his hospital tank or anything like that. It's for a different scape that I have not set up yet. So I'm just going to wash this off and throw it in there as well. All right, I got these washed, and these are like some pretty large clumps of Busa philandra. I'm fairly impressed. I'm going to just chuck those in there with him. They can kind of keep him company also. They're kind of just floating right now. Not sure why that is. Now I'm not adding all these plants in here to like filter his little box because obviously it's mesh. So his water parameters are going to stay stable because he's getting water from this whole tank. It's being circulated by the sponge filter back here. So that's not an issue. That is something to keep in mind, though, if you set up a hospital tank. If it's shallow, it's probably not going to be a very large body of water. So you're going to need to make sure you're doing regular water changes, and definitely throw in plants. Like the moss, you can throw in stem plants. That will help keep the parameters from harming the betta fish. Now let's take a look in here at Kai. He's just laying here. Poor guy, I feel bad for him. Let's zoom back. There you go. You can kind of see what the setup looks like. This is just an affordable way to help with his swim bladder disorder. Also, it will allow me to feed these fish in here without him being able to pig out on any of the food. And I'm going to just leave the lid off of this tank. I had this glass lid right here sitting on there, but I can put that back. But I had the glass lid on. I'll just leave it off. So the water, the tank will be evaporating more. I'll just top it off a bit more or let it get a bit more shallow for him. As you can see, he has like a good little hiding place back here from the front of the tank anyway. Like if you're looking in from the front, it's like, oh, where is he? He can feel a little bit safer back here. He was resting down here in this corner a lot. There's a shrimp. But yeah, he can just this will allow him to rest a little bit more. He won't be so stressed out to get to the surface. He can just kind of lay on this bed of moss and not have any fish bothering him or snails or shrimp. And I hope that he makes a full recovery. I really hope he does. But he's pretty stressed out right now. He's just went from having ick and being treated for that to now having swim bladder disorder, and yeah, it's kind of been a mess. And this is a top view of him. He's still so gorgeous, even though his coloring is just not quite as vibrant as it used to be. Love the green of the plants. So beautiful. So that is what I am doing to help Kai with his swim bladder disorder. I'm hoping he makes a full recovery, and I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you have a betta fish with swim bladder disorder, I hope he or she makes a full recovery. And thank you guys so much for watching this video to the end.